Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Welcome to the international webinar EFL, Department of Masters in English Education, Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang. This webinar provides us better understanding and insight of young learners or YL. I am Rodia, your host for today. I also would like to greet the head of Department of Master in English Education, Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang, Bapak Dr. Estu Widodo M.Hum, and of course, our distinguished speakers, Ms. Sabrina Hisan, PhD, the research scientist of Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. Second, Professor Dwi Pujiastuti, MA, PhD, the lecturer of Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang. And Dino Sugiarto, SPD, the graduate study of Masters in English Education, Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang. And all participants who are enthusiastically participating in this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, this international webinar is held in collaboration with Nanyang University. The main topic of today's webinar is strategy for engaging young learners. There will be 3 wonderful speakers to elaborate the topics. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me first to read the agenda for today. The first is the opening. The second is the welcome speech of the head of the committee. The third is the welcome speech of the head of Department of Masters in English Education, Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang, Bapak Dr. Estu Widodo M.Hum. The fourth is the main agenda, the webinar session, which presents 3 great speakers, Ms. Sabrina Hisan, PhD from Nanyang Technological University, Professor Puji Astuti, MA, PhD, and Dino Sugiarto, SPD. And the fifth agenda is questions and answer session, and the last will be the closing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the opening session. Without any further ado, I would like to invite Bapak Bayu Brojo Mukti, SPD, the head of the committee, to give welcome speech. The time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. By the blessing and nikmah from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, all of us can attend this international webinar on English young learners with the topic of strategies of engaging young learners. First of all, I would like to deliver my biggest thanks to Dr. Estu Widodo M.Hum, as the head of Masters in English Education, Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang, for attending and opening this webinar today. And I also need to deliver my thanks to speaker, Ms. Sabrina Hisan, PhD, Professor Dwi Pujiastuti, MA, PhD, and Mr. Dino Sugiarto, SPD. Last but not least, I need to deliver my thanks to all of my colleagues on this webinar committee who has already dedicated their time, effort, and mind to conducting this amazing forum. This seminar is intended to gain insight into the English for Young Learners. English for Young Learners, or EYL, is getting popular in Indonesia and become a prior need for Indonesian society for their children's education. But for its application, it is highly required for the teacher to understand the strategy, the concept, and several aspects regarded as the EYL to engage the young learners in learning English. Hence, in this webinar, we will learn and conduct a discussion from the experts about EYL, especially on the topic of temperamental trait in young learners, learning through movement, and also utilizing technology for teaching EYL. And hopefully, we can gain a new insight and new perspective on EYL and how we apply it in the teaching learning process in reality. I hope that this online webinar can run well without any problems. And without the further ado, let's proceed this webinar, strategy for engaging young learners. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Bapak Bayu. The next, I would like to invite the head of Department of Masters in English Education, Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang, Bapak Dr. Estu Widodo M.Hum, to give welcome speech. The time is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mbak Rodia. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, fellow speakers, and good afternoon to our audience here, joining us online from Iran, Indonesia. First, may I thank each of our speakers for taking part in this virtual conference. The quality and caliber of speakers this moment is outstanding. Also, I'd like to thank all of you for connecting this afternoon, and I hope you are looking forward to the presentation and discussions as much as I am. This is the fourth year we are holding our major annual event in hybrid format with no audience physically in the room. But in this new year, I'm speaking to you in much more positive context, both in terms of the public health situation and the academic outlook, not to mention the academic outlook of young children. As we come together today with the theme of the strategies of engaging young learners, I would like to mention 3 challenges pertaining to EYA teaching based on research. First, young learners concentrate only for a short time. This is why EYA teachers are demanded to create various charming activities and exploit their curiosity and their lively world. And second, every child has unique ways of learning. Therefore, EYA teachers are also supposed to be skillful in using new media, including games and various teaching aids, so that every child has opportunities to learn. And third, demand for English for young learners education has increased among parents. It means the paths to create and innovate new strategies, new media, new materials for EYA teaching are still open, even very wide. Ladies and gentlemen, let me once again thank our fantastic speakers for giving their time and insight today. And I hope all of you can enjoy this insightful seminar. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Bapak Estu. Well, now we have come to our main agenda, the webinar session. All presentation and discussion will be moderated by our moderator, Bapak Sarif Hidayatullah, SPD. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our moderator, Bapak Sarif Hidayatullah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable Ms. Sabrina Hisan, PhD, Honorable Professor B. Puji Astuti, MA, PhD, and Honorable Mr. Dino Sugiarto, SPD, and also all of the distinguished participants in this international webinar in EFL. Well, my name is Sharif Hidatullah. It gives me such a great pleasure to be the moderator for the international webinar in EFL, Strategy for Engaging Young Learners. Well, ladies and gentlemen, first I'd like to greet to our remarkable speaker that joins in this international webinar. Her name is Miss Sabrina Hisan, PhD, a research scientist at CRCD of National Institute of Education. Good afternoon, Miss Sabrina Hisan. Well, it's an honor to have with you to be our remarkable speaker today. She's focused on bilingual education for English and mother tongues. Her interest is in biliteracy learning and teaching with paper or electronic storybooks and the relationships between bilingualism and psychological traits such as social emotion, well-being, and temperaments. She's very productive since she was publishing around 27 journals, if I'm not mistaken. One of them was entitled Mandarin Vocabulary Growth, Teacher Qualification, and Teacher Talk in Bilingual Kindergartens. Well, to shorten the time, ladies and gentlemen, in this occasion, she will present her topic entitled Temperamental Traits in Young Learners English Language Learning for about 25 minutes. Now, Ms. Sabrina Hisan, the screen is yours.
Sorry, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
You can see my screen, okay?
Yeah, teacher.
Okay, let me see. Share again. So now you can see my slides, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Superb, okay. It's interesting. Why? Is it in a display setting? Can you see the show taskbar or display setting, or it's in PPT style?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'll do this way. I will give you a clear vision. I'll use my another screen. Okay, now you can see the whole PPT, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to give today's presentation. My name is He Sun. I'm a senior research scientist at Nanyang Technological University in Center for Research in Child Development. My topic today is about temporal traits in young learners' English language learning. First of all, I want to thank for your invitation. It's my great honor. I owe a lot of thanks to Professor Dui, and also thank you for showing up for today's presentation. So we all know that English language teaching and learning starts younger and younger nowadays globally. And here I want to give you some figures actually several years ago in China. You can see that in China alone, we have about 2.3 billion US dollars market. And it is growing at a rate of 12% each year. And we have a huge market in the future for children's early English education in China. How about in Singapore? The same. Actually, Singapore has a bilingual policy, and many children start to learn English, from home, from institutes at a very, very young age. Compared with this very prosperous market, we have very little knowledge about these young English language learners. I couldn't find many studies about this topic, when I did my PhD. And there's a lot of misconception in the field of about early language learners. Some people will say, oh, they like, they absorb knowledge easily. So whenever you just give them something, they will quickly acquire it. So without any difficulties. Is it true? I have a big question mark. Since we devote so much efforts and time from each household, I want to know in which way we can guarantee these young learners learn a very, harmonious, in a very, very nice way. So I start my journey to explore, the factors that will influence early English as second language, English foreign language bilingual learners. I want to know what kind of factors will influence children's early English learning or bilingual learning. So here I give you a summary. There are two aspects. One is called external factors. So here you can see external factors really refer to children's learning environment. In general, we can divide these factors in two categories, family and school. For family, you can see that we refer to how much each family member use this language, in our case, English, with the kid. So this refers to English input. Also, we want to know in the home setting, how much our kids use English with different family members. And another big factor will be SES, socioeconomic status, because this factor will influence how many resources you will get for children's English learning and what kind of practice parents may integrate when they speak or teach English to their kids. Besides family, we also have a very important chunk of group of factors based on school environment. For example, teacher qualification, school curriculum, peer relationships. These all can influence children's early English language learning. Okay, how about the other group, internal factors? Usually it refers to children's cognitive development. We have something called domain general skills, which can apply for all children's language learning, such as children's analytical reasoning, executive function, theory of mind, and others like children's about markers, age of onset. So whether children start at the age of 2 or at the age of 6, sometimes some researcher will argue, the final attainment will be very different. And this age of onset is also a very hot topic in the world because, it related to different countries' language policy. When to start English language education? Should we start from preschool? Should we start from primary school? If primary school, primary 1 or primary 3 or primary 5? I have read many studies about it. I think still, even now, I think still a lot of researchers pay attention to this topic, such as I know some quite famous researcher like Carmen Munoz from University of Barcelona. Yeah, she devoted her time to explore this type of question related to language policy. Another factor we always talk about is gender. So many researchers argue that even our teachers will observe that girls and boys may behave differently in terms of language learning. Lastly, which is the focus of today's talk, will be temperament. So I want to use my case study to illustrate how does temperament will influence children's early language English learning. So when I look at this topic, I noticed in 1999, Clark published a paper based on several cases in Australia. So she observed several immigrant children and tried to identify their development phases in the first year of their English learning in Australia. So remember, English is the second language to these kids. Because even though maybe in these immigrant families, children don't have a lot of exposure to English, but outside of a home setting, English is everywhere because English is the dominant language in Australia. So children have very rich input and also a lot of chances to practice English. She divided 3 phases for children's first year English learning. So the first phase is called silent period. And she found it's very different from child to child in terms of duration. Some children may only have 1 week of silence, then they start to imitate their teacher's talk. Some children will have, several months. They just keep silent and sit back in the classroom to listen. And after the silent period, usually children will move into the repetition phase. They will repeat after teachers in single word. If you say rabbit, they will say rabbit following the teacher. After the first phase, children start to have a richer language. They use less repetition and formulaic language. They start to combine certain words, try to compose certain constructions. And also they rely their mother tongue, their first language, to convey their meaning. So they usually you will notice a lot of language switching at this phase. Children tend to borrow the strengths of their L1, try to deliver more complex meaning. Then at the end of the first year, children will have are more confident in English. They can use more complex English utterances to convey their meaning. Okay. Despite these general phases, researchers like Clark pay attention, notice that there's huge individual differences among children in terms of the time of entry into English use. In terms of duration of each phase I demonstrated to you just now. And also they are different between each other in terms of amount of interaction with teachers and peers in English. So one question we want to ask, so what kind of factors will influence children's early English learning. So I gave you the map, more or less, at the very beginning of talk. As I mentioned, one of the factors could be temperament. Okay, first of all, what is temperament? Temperament is something very fundamental for children's later personality. It is inherited from parents and is considered stable during children's early years. And it is considered to form the core of children's personality later. And we, in the literature, we do find some findings about temperament and its relation to children's early first language development. And some people found that temperament in these children can have more advanced L1 skills. And also these specific, temperament traits like attention span, mood, adaptability, and sensitivity. These are, if children are very good at it, then they probably have better language production. Lastly, they found, temperament can influence children's learning directly and indirectly. Directly means that, if they have good temperament, they can invite a lot of conversation. They can initiate a lot of conversation with strangers, with different stakeholders. But if they have, bad temperament, they may just, stop this conversation very soon. And indirectly means that, if children has a good temperament, actually they create themselves, subconsciously more chances to use the language. People tend to communicate with them more. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So you can see at least for L1 literature, we find temperament can influence children's language learning. So my question in the study I'm going to present you next will focus on 3 research questions. The first one is, how do children's, in a English as a foreign language context develop their language from zero, phase 0? How do they, use their verbal and nonverbal behaviors to communicate? And the second one is, how does children differ from each other? The last one is, can we interpret children's individual differences from the perspective of temperament? So we have some hypotheses based on the literature. For the first one is, for the EFL setting, English as a foreign language setting, we believe, we can find something similar in, identified by Clark in 1999 in Australia, at least the 2 phases. And the second hypothesis is that similar to other contexts, we will see children's huge variation between each other in terms of their early English development. Lastly, we believe that similar to L1 studies, temperament traits will influence children's L2 or foreign language learning, EFL learning. So in this study, I follow a group of children. In this study, I use a younger class. Here I follow 4 3-year-old children, 2 boys and 2 girls in Chongqing, China. And these children were taught by 1 American teacher and 1 Chinese teaching assistant in the classroom. I use both a questionnaire and English vocabulary test at the beginning of the experiment or the longitudinal study to make sure that these children are parallel in terms of background and in terms of language proficiency. And each week I recorded for 70 minutes, more than 1 hour. So you can see for the first year, their class routine are quite similar between weeks. So usually they start with a name calling, then they sing songs, they review words, they do activities, then they give a sticker as a bonus. So it make sure that between each week or each month, our comparison is reliable or valid. And lastly, I collect children's temperament information using NYLS. Later on, I'm going to introduce this instrument. So for data collection for this paper, I introduced children's, first 5 months learning. So you can see for the first week, first month, it's just week 2, but gradually from months 2 and months 5, I have 2 weeks data each respectively. I coded all children's performance and using the coding scheme with several categories like gaze, nonverbal repetition, verbal repetition, nonverbal response, verbal response, and mixing language means that they code switch between English and Chinese in children's utterances. As I mentioned, I use NYLS, New York Longitudinal Survey to longitudinal study to explore children's temperament. This is a quite established instrument in the world, and it has been designed by Thomas and Chess in 1977. We have adapted norm score in China, and in this instrument we have 72 questions for parents. There are 9 temperament traits for each child. Here you can see the first 5 traits. Activity means, the level of children's physical energy, high or low or middle, and then initial reaction means how the child responds to new people or environments, whether they tend to be very positive towards strangers or new situations, or very, shy, try to withdraw from it. Adaptability means that how long it takes a child to adjust to a change over time. Intensity means the energy level of positive or negative response. Regularity means the level of predictability of children's biological function, means that whether they are very regular in terms of sleeping, in terms of eating. Here you can see in the second slide, you can see the other 4 aspects. Mood means that if the child is have a general tendency towards a happy or unhappy temperament. Distractibility means that whether children have short attention or very focused all the time. Persistent and attention span means the length of time on task and ability to stay with the task through frustration. Lastly is a threshold responsiveness, means that it refers to how easily a child is disturbed by change in the environment. So in total, we have these 9 aspects to demonstrate children's temperament. Okay, to explore our first question, we want to know whether, how many phases or how do children gradually, move from one phase to another during their first half year of English learning in China. You can see that the blue line represents children's nonverbal behaviors, and the red line represents their verbal behaviors. The tendency is very clear. At the beginning, for the first 2 months until week 8, you can see at the beginning the nonverbal behavior, dominant children's behavior in terms of average production of these preschoolers per minute. However, after that, verbal behaviors surpass the nonverbal behaviors, since week 8. So we can see there is a delay of verbal repetition, more or less. Then we want to know whether, this type of verbal and nonverbal behaviors are very consistent over time for each child. You can see each colored line represent one child. And then if you use the nonverbal behaviors to minus, verbal behaviors to minus nonverbal behaviors, use a differential to look at children's change over time. You can see that some children always below the line 0 means that children have equal number of nonverbal and verbal behavior. And some children always above the line, like the red line. So it's very, consistent. Even, you see the lines are changing all the times. But you can see that for each child, the difference, if they're on the top, probably remain on the top almost all the time. If they're on the bottom, always at the bottom. So it's quite interesting. So means that even our behavior or children's behaviors were very dynamic, but their tendency or their position within the group are very consistent. Then our second question is about children's variation. I think you already see here children's variation, right? For example, the red line represents Adam. So his verbal repetition always on the top, see, over time. Even sometimes drop, but still quite reasonable. For this kid, represented by the orange line, Linda, always on the bottom, even though also dynamical change over time. And for verbal response, we found a similar trend, someone on the top, always on the top, someone on the bottom, always on the bottom, and children are very different from each other in terms of their frequency of production. Okay, the third question, let's look at children's, temperament. As I mentioned, this is a norm score. We have a lot of data collected by some other researchers in China. And you can see that, if I indicate with -1 means that this kid is below to his or her age group. And if this +1 means that it's above the average norm. And then 0 means that within the norm range. So you can see children are very different from each other in terms of temperament. They are like Linda, very, very below the average in terms of initial reaction. So she didn't want something surprise, something new in general. Very low in activity, energy. But she's quite regular, very obey to the classroom rules. In contrast, you can see the Adam, very happy all the time, very good mood all the time. Happy, cheerful, smiling all the time. Very easy to adapt to a new situation. Very, productive, active in the classroom, and very welcome to new changes. Linda, Lydia, and Philip the same way. So basically, no two kids are similar. They all have their distinctive features. Then let's try to combine to look at their temperament together with the language behaviors. Look at Linda, the first kid. As I mentioned, she's quite low. She was quite low in terms of level of initial reaction and activity, but she's quite regular. And how about her learning behaviors? She was silent the longest in the classroom for 10 weeks. And in week 19, she turned to be silent again because they changed her teacher in that week. She has the lowest amount of English production, but she was quite disciplined in the classroom. So actually, teacher didn't bother with her silence. They just asked her to sit back, then I remember clearly the American teacher was very happy when she produced something in week 11, and she was loved by the teachers, even though she didn't produce too much. And the second case, Adam, as I mentioned, opposite to Linda. So this little boy has a very good energy, very high in terms of initial reaction, very active, easy to adapt to new situation, very happy all the time. But he has low persistency. Okay, if you see his development over time in terms of learning behavior, he was the first kid to repeat in classroom. He tends to put new words into practice. He has the highest amount of English production in the classroom. Yeah, he tends to say in English all the time, leading other kids to practice in the classroom. So here I give you some examples of my transcripts using CLAN. You can see teacher one say, the American teacher say stop. The Chinese teaching assistant say stop. Then Adam will say stop, repeat. Oh, very good. The teacher gives some compliments. And then, you see, Then the teachers start to say jump. They move on to the next action word. But Adam just says stop. He tried to play with the teachers. You can see he's a very amusing, very interesting, funny little guy. So and teachers really enjoy talking to him. So we can see a kind of pattern for cases like this. Now, Adam can quickly adapt to the classroom, and then teacher give very positive feedback. Then that will, increase children's, or in this case, Adam's motivation. And then they have more interaction between the teacher and Adam, and then go on and on. Very positive, feedback loop. Let's look at the third case, Lydia. Lydia has a very high level of adaptation, but also higher threshold of responsiveness, not very sensitive. So she was the quickest, very quickly to used to English class. She was the first child to put single words into a sentence. She was always driven by her curiosity and not very sensitive to class discipline. Sometimes this type of kid will make a trouble in the eyes of teachers. I give you some examples here. So this is she was the first kid to try to put single words into a sentence. Say, this is green lily. So she tried to code switch and convey herself. And the second teacher say, yeah, green lily, yes, green. She's very active in terms of using the novel information. And then she tried to pick up some words to do more incidental learning in the classroom. Okay, the last case, Philip. You can see that Philip is very interesting. He has a very bad mood. I will show you in the transcript later. But he is quite persistent, and he enjoyed. So according to his learning behavior, he enjoyed word review. But he demonstrated frustration when he could not gain the attention from the teacher. So look at this case. They say, he tend to feel frustrated when he was not chosen to play a game. He would say, the teacher call another name, Lily. Then Philip will say, I feel angry. I'm angry now. Then, so he murmured in Chinese. Actually, the American teacher didn't realize actually that the kid was pissed off. And so he was saying so, and the American teacher always saying something in front of camera, saying, I don't know what's wrong with the little boy, why he doesn't want to listen to me. Yeah, because Philip was angry because he didn't gain the attention he desired. But teacher, due to the language difficulty, the teacher didn't understand him very well. So you can see that there's some misinterpretation going on from teacher to Philip about Philip's behavior. Then the teacher will try to discipline him, say, sit back, okay, listen to me. And then Philip feel frustrated, along the way. And then he start to use Chinese to convey himself. Then Philip feel, he has been overlooked because, the American teacher didn't know Chinese that well. So then the on and on. After half a year, I noticed that Philip turned from a very active boy, very passionate learner, to more passive learner because he doesn't want to, participate in the classroom activities that much as in the past. Okay, so conclusion. We partially confirmed Clark's finding. We show that there are incidences in phase 1 and phase 2 identified by Clark's 3 phases model. But we found a delay of English repetition. In the Australian setting, actually children start to do the repetition at a very early age. But in the EFL setting in China, actually children tend to listen more, keep a longer silent period, and then start to repeat after teachers. Secondly, we found variations among children in terms of time of entry into English use, amount of interaction, and English learning style. Lastly, about temperament and early foreign language learning, we found that temperament isness, which has been found useful in L1 learning, also apply for children's early English language learning as a foreign language. So if they have a better temperament, quotation mark, they have earlier and more English production. If they have a lower level activity, they have less, English production. And negative mood and higher level of sensory threshold will lead to teachers misleading of children's needs and hamper children's motivation and incidental learning eventually. So implications, I think, first of all our language teachers, especially, language teachers for young learners, very young learners, need to have some psychological knowledge, because temperament is really not in our curriculum to be taught. So many of my students in Singapore, when I teach psycholinguistics to my students, when I ask, do you know the concept? This is also quite new to them as a language teacher. And so this is a first implication from the study. The secondly is, we want to know, I asked the teachers back then, how many months do you need to know your students' temperament? Some will say, as a foreign teacher, I need at least 3 months to know my students, to know their temperaments, to know their learning styles. Some Chinese teachers say, because I know Chinese, I can communicate with them in mother tongue in L1, so the period can be shortened. So I think we probably need to consult parents before we start to teach our child's students and get to know them better, then accommodate our teaching strategies according to their personality. Lastly, I noticed that for certain type of students, the teacher turnover will influence their learning journey. So I think this is a very big element for early language education in general. And we as language teachers need to pay special attention to this, because children, young children can be easily influenced by their environment, by their teacher the most in many cases. So I want to publish this paper with several scholars in the world, Kees Diebold, Rasmus Steenkraft, and I also want to thank my colleagues who give me a lot of advice. Thank you very much for listening. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for Ms. Hisan PhD for the remarkable presentations. And I already read some conclusion, let me say in Bahasa Indonesia. Jadi tadi ketika di awal Ms. Hisan menjelaskan mengenai faktor yang signifikan, yakni mulai dari keluarga, kemudian sekolah. Di keluarga tadi kita harus memperhatikan input bahasa yang diperoleh oleh anak-anak, baik secara input maupun output. Kemudian di sekolah juga harus memperhatikan mengenai kualifikasi guru, kurikulum di sekolah, dan juga teman. Kemudian itu faktor selanjutnya yakni mengenai fungsi eksekutifnya kita harus perhatikan, kemudian analitik, dan kemudian juga teori pikiran. Di samping itu tadi Miss Hisan menjelaskan mengenai fase developmental in ESL konteks. Jadi tadi saya mencatat ada silent repetition atau anak-anak ketika diam, kemudian less repetitions. Yang ketiga yakni more confident, more complex in English utterance. Jadi di development phases in ESL konteks, ketika yang di awal ketika kita mengajari anak-anak pasti ada fase itu ketika anak-anak mau diam. Karena sebenarnya mereka itu tidak diam, tapi mereka mulai memperhatikan, kemudian mereka mulai sedikit banyak mengulang apa yang diucapkan oleh seorang guru atau tenaga pendidik, yang merujuk pada poin ketiga, yakni mereka akhirnya bisa menjadi lebih percaya diri, dan bahkan mereka bisa memberikan sebuah penjelasan mengenai kata-kata bahasa Inggris yang lebih kompleks. Okay, that's all. For the next presentation will be delivered by Ma'am Puji Astuti. We will, Miss Puji Astuti, MA PhD. In this occasion, she will present her topic entitled Young Kids Learn Through Movement for about 25 minutes. Good afternoon, Ma'am Puji Astuti. Are you with us?
Hello, good afternoon.
Okay,
How are you?
we are fine in here. All right, we are excited to have you here to be the speaker. Okay, I'd like to read briefly about Ms. Puji Astuti. She has 25 years and more experience in English teaching and learning in Indonesia context. It's clear that she's an active researcher with a strong focus on ESP meta-analysis. She has published her work in international journal and written several textbooks on ESP. Well, to the best of my knowledge, she's a valuable contributor to the fields of English language education. Her news journal in 2022 entitled Teachers English Level Proficiency. Do students perceive it as a threat or a chance? Well, dear Ma'am Puji Astuti, now the screen is yours.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me say Assalamualaikum, the greeting in Muslim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All right, okay. I'm Puji Astuti, as has already been introduced by the moderator. I am the teacher of TEFL instruction, teaching English as a foreign language instruction. This subject is one of the subject at master level English education department at University of Muhammadiyah. And in this subject, one of the discussion that we usually have with the student is the EYL pedagogy. And today, because there are a lot of things that we can discuss about EYL pedagogy, I would like to limit and talks only about kid learns through movement and physical activities. All right, student, all right, everyone, sorry, I thought it's still my student. All right, okay, everyone here, before, to give you a practical, a practical information. You know that Yuzan has already discussed about the result of the research on EYL, but I would like to give more practical one. Probably this is also important and beneficial for the student here who start their career of teaching for young learners. Right, as mentioned by the first speaker, Yisan, that the teaching of English to young learners has been a global phenomenon. And Johnston, as I know, 2009 has called EYL the world's largest educational policy development, has a major impact on educational practice. A survey also conducted by British Council in 2013 revealed that more than 60 countries worldwide currently have a policy on the introduction of English English in younger age, elementary school or even lower. And then also the Southeast Asian, the country also acknowledge the inevitable influence and benefit of English in this region. Therefore, early introduction of English in primary school or even lower has become a common practice if also in Indonesian context. Today, I would like to talk about this in Indonesia, especially just a little bit to give you an overview. Unlike in the secondary school, English is not mandatory in primary school. We call it mulok or muatan lokal, or in English, local content subject. allowing the primary school to teach English from grades 4 onward. The school who run English teaching should guarantee the facilities and human resources to accommodate proper teaching learning activities. However, due to the absence due to not mandatory status in Indonesian context, so we also do not have the official curriculum for teacher, the official curriculum. In addition to that, there is a short supply of English teacher in primary school or even lower. Many teachers are usually recruited from senior high school, which is the pedagogy in teaching senior high school. They usually use the general English. The pedagogy is completely different from the pedagogy of EYL or teaching English to young learners. As I already mentioned earlier, that due to the absence of official curriculum, this teacher from senior high school or probably the subject teacher in primary school, they actually teach math and then teach art or Indonesian language, use their existing knowledge and belief how to handle young learners. Therefore, in this session, in this webinar, I really happy if we can share. And I know that I might still have some information which is not comprehensively, then probably the sharing experience with the teacher would be beneficial also in this session. All right, the first thing that we have to pay attention here, as I know that because it is not mandatory and the pedagogy is using the existing knowledge and belief from the teacher who handles senior high school. Usually, English for young learners in Indonesia is not well developed. Therefore, I'm going to share here teaching English to young learners pedagogy. To understand young learners learning English, we have also need to pay attention to some of the characteristic of young learners itself. Next slide, please. There are 3 characteristics of young learners. There are a lot actually. However, in this session, I'm going to discuss only 3 characteristics of young learners, especially I try to relate with the movement and physical activities. So the first characteristic here is moving a lot. Young learners, as you can see in your kids at home, or probably if you have a sibling, or if you probably also have a little sister, your sibling, what I mean here, I'm sorry, I repeat, they like to begging to the parents to go outside of the house in order they can free themselves, running and then walking and then yelling sometimes and then walking. And also when they are at home, they still like moving from one corner to the house to the other corner of the house, because kids easily get bored. It is related to the second characteristic of the young learners itself that I mentioned here, is a short span of concentration. They easily get bored, so that's why teacher, if you have, for example, about 30 minutes English classroom, please consider to have 2 or more than 2, it can be 3, 4 activities for that time frame. Otherwise, if you only have 1 activities and the kids doing more than 10 minutes, they easily get bored. And when they get bored, they easily disturb others or their friends. And then The next characteristic of young learners is curiosity. Curiosity is, what is it? Young learners' nature. They like to, to touch everything they found around them. They like to smell. They like to look at a particular object that attracts them a lot, and they sitting down and looking at the object. And sometimes not only that, sometimes this kid asking you a lot of questions related to that object, and teacher who might be very busy usually feel annoyed with this kind of questions. Sometimes you feel annoyed as well. So yes, this is their characteristic. You have to understand this first before dealing with the young learners. Otherwise, many teachers probably, because they're from different pedagogy, for example, senior high school pedagogy, general English pedagogy, if you do not know the characteristic, it will, it will disrupt the teaching learning process later on. All right. Next is why play and why I want to give you the teaching technique, and more specifically in this occasion I would like to discuss the movement and physical activities or move, and why play, why is it important for kids to have physical activities in the very young age. As you know that kids' brain grow faster in earlier age than other age in their period of life. So it creates around million neural connection in 1 second. But parents and teachers, kids needs your help, of course, especially also the older sister, older brother, because healthy development of the brain depends on top 5 things. There are connection, talking, playing. The playing here I highlight, healthy homes and community. All right, now let's discuss just in brief about the 5 things you should understand about the play, or what I call is the power of the movement. All right, the first is connection. Connection means here is kid want to have a good connection, healthy connection with their parents, with the teacher, with their older brother, sister, also with the friends. So having connection, so mom, dad, if you have good connection, good relationship with kids, it leads their healthy brains. And then the second one is talking. Yeah, parents need to talk parents, teacher need to talk to kids more, because by producing the language, your local language, your national language, or foreign language, by producing that, kids usually imitate what you produce. And probably if you talk more with kids, it will lead kids to produce more language. So in this case, talking is also crucial for kids to help their healthy brain grows faster. And then the next is healthy homes. The healthy homes here, dad, mom, if you have a severe or serious argument each other, please avoid doing that in front of the kids. Also teacher, if you have argument with your colleague or probably with other students, please don't or avoid doing that in front of kids. Community, and then the next community, of course, the community, because kids usually play outside of their rooms. They observe, the characteristic of the kids is they observe how the community of people around them behave. So community is also influential factor in brain development. And then I put in the circle here is playing. playing or movement or physical activities is very important. As you know that when kids play, each time you play with kids, it makes them laugh, feeling happy, and build relationship, and it in the long run it will lead to the mental health in kids. All right, now the next here I give you some techniques teaching, some technique, the next slide please. Some technique teaching related to movement and physical activities. I divided into 3 here because almost for example, demonstration almost have or have similarity with total physical response or TPR. And then the second one is the outdoor classes. The outdoor classes here give the opportunity for kids to do the observation. This is also encouraged in your classroom when you are dealing with kids. And then the third one is moving, or you can incorporate music and dance in physical movement or in the in classroom while they're moving. All right, to give you real or practical illustration, I would like to play a short videos, and I will show you which one is total physical response, demonstration, outdoor classes, and also moving. So this video will help you to give to think of what is the appropriate way teaching the kids. In this case, this is the project. Actually, the video here is taken from the project from Ministry of Education in Indonesia. The Ministry of Education in Indonesia invite teachers in higher school and university to contribute their knowledge to give the senior junior high school teacher technique, method, and approach when handling or when dealing with kids. Now, let's pay attention to this video, just a short video. Probably it will give you some understanding how to teach kids in a fun way. Okay, this is just now the activities I did with the students is I try to give the example instead of asking kids in their local language. Run is lari, for example. Walk is berjalan, for example. I do not translate into their local language, or sometimes teacher also ask kids to open up their dictionary to find out what is in their language. Run or walk or stand up or sit down or give applause or clap, anything like that. Sometimes the teacher are using that kind of teaching technique, translating, but for me, I'll give a demonstration. Yeah, in this video, I give the demonstration. The demonstration is, I said that almost similar to total physical response. In total physical response, we ask, ask kids here, or I said, is it like junior high school student? Yes, they are junior high school students. As you know that young learners is not only in term of their age, very young. For example, like from 5 to 12, but young learners also in term of how a new language is just introduced in their level. For example, in junior high school, especially level in level 7, which is the transition. Mohon mohon di mute ya. Mohon di mute. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now let me continue. In level 7, usually because the transition from primary school in Indonesia is not all primary school giving the English learning. So when they were in level 7, after level 6 in primary school, they moved to junior high school, which is level 7. Learning English is new for them. So it's also, I treat them as a young learners because this is not because of the age, because they just learn English for the first time. So total physical response, let me continue again, means I can ask, for example, or give or demonstrate to them that open the door. For example, when I said open the door, I come close to the door and open this, and then close the door. I also close again. I repeat many times. Opens means this. I show them, and then close means this. Open until they understand what is my instruction, and then after that I try to ask other kids to to do the same thing. Yeah, as my example, please, Danny, can you please open the door? And if Danny understand and open the door, means they understand what I instructed. They understand my demonstration. Or this is what we call as a total physical response. And then the other one, okay. Tolong dipercepat, faster, Mbak. Is it, ma'am? Yeah. Okay. Now this time we are looking at the outdoor class. Yeah. In the outdoor class, I repeat again my a new the vocabulary they have learned in classroom. For example, running and then walking. Let's see the video first. After that, I'm going to give you some information about what we have done with the kids outdoor the class. Stop. Okay. This time, in addition to some vocabulary related to physical activities like running and then jumping or whatever the kid can do outdoor class, because in the outdoor class they have more space. They have more space compared to in classroom. probably they can free themselves outdoor class, and I add some new information. In this case, for example, like I say, make when they are running, and I add the instruction, new instruction, make a group of 2. And they understand the word group in English because usually teacher use the word group as well untuk for kelompok. And then after that, when they don't understand 2, I give a gesture using my hand like this to make a group of 2. And when students look at me and I have the gesture or have hand gesture like that, and then they try to make a group of 2. And then I introduce them, make a group of 2 as a new language they understand. I teach them in that time and they understand. All right, next. Give us a game. Stop. So in this game, I ask students to do a game, a squirrel in the house. Some of the students become a house and some other student becomes a squirrel. And you know that I ask students to hold hands. Yeah, they become a house. They imagine that they become a house by holding hand. And then the other, I give the instruction 2. Again, I teach them number like 2 squirrel, or probably you can change 2 cat if they know cat or dogs or whatever. 2 cats in the house. So student who become a squirrel house, a squirrel or cat or dog should find a house when I say 2 squirrel, 2 cats or 2 dogs in the house. For example, like this. Okay, now please continue. Okay, stop. Okay, now you can see that if the student do not have a house to get in because all of the houses has already been filled with other students, they get in quotation mark, it is not real, in quotation mark, they get punishment, they get fine. Means that those students should mention the punishment is like more academic, yeah, do not do the physical punishment, more academic one. For example, like, please, you should mention the object in English around you. Students probably understand roses. They can find roses in around them, and then probably they can find glass, windows, door, glasses, anything like that. As long as they mention some vocabulary, adding some vocabulary, or if they cannot mention the vocabulary in English, ma'am, what is itu? What is kamar mandi? Oh, okay, it's a toilet, for example. I mentioned toilet, and then they add some vocabulary. So the punishment is given, but not in we cannot do it physically, yeah, we should ask them to mention vocabulary they understand or they know already, or maybe you can ask, they can ask in local language if they completely don't have any vocabulary at all at that time when they get punishment. All right. And then the next, this is the outdoor classes. And they also observe, in this case, some of the object and mention in English. So observation, outdoor classes, probably close related. All right, next is incorporating music in movement here. Can you please move faster? Move to the slide, ma'am. You move to the, you know, the next, no. Oh, the next, the music one on the video. Sebelumnya. Oke. Oke. Stop. Okay, this is what I had done with them, yeah, and incorporating music in their classroom as well. At that time, we talked about introduction or introducing themselves in front of their peer, in front of their friend. Just mention, do not give kids the overload topic, yeah, name, age, hobby, how many sister, and then for example, what is the name of your parents, anything like that. Just discuss 3 or limited discussion, limited topic for kids. Do not let them understanding everything only in one meeting. For example, in this meeting, I only discuss what's your name. In introduction, you mention your names, and then how old are you, and then what is your hobby, and what kind of people, what kind of kid are you? Are you happy kids, or are you cool? Are you honest, or whatever? So mention, but instead of doing the introduction like the other teacher did, kids just stand up in front of the class. This time, I try to incorporate them with music and dance. If the kids like dance, they can show in front of the other friend, dancing or moving. I'm using hip hop in this rap or hip hop. I don't know the genre of the music now. I'm quite older for understanding the music, but I can find musical instrument which is also fun for them. Yeah, musical instrument fit with their age. Okay, something like this. Can you please repeat just a little like? Yeah, no, stop. Okay, come back to the slide. Yeah, all right. So this is all the example from my short video, demonstration, outdoor classes, and incorporating music and dance in their movement. This is all. Hopefully we have a discussion or sharing the idea. Thank you very much for now. And yes, moving.
Well, thank you very much, Ma'am Puji Astuti, for the comprehensive explanations. Now we are going to the last presenter, our last speaker. It will be delivered by Mr. Dino Sugiarto. In this occasion, she will deliver his topic, entitled Utilizing Technology in Teaching EYL, English for Young Learners. Good afternoon, Mr. Dino Sugiarto.
Hello, Mas Sharif. Good afternoon, and also good afternoon to all participants here.
Okay, we are looking forward to hearing from you today. In this case, he has a lot of experience in the field of English teachings. It's impressive that he has progressed in his career to become the curriculum deputy and head of Cambridge division at My Little Island Primary School. It's clear that this man is dedicated to make a positive impact in the school and the community. This international journal published in 2014 entitled The Implementation of Think, Pair, Share model to improve students' ability in reading narrative text. Well, due to shorten the time, Mr. Dino Sugiarto, the screen is yours.
Okay, one more time, thank you so much for the moderator, Mr. Sharif Hidayatullah. Well, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, all participants. Okay, I'll go directly to share my presentation here. Okay. Okay, well, hopefully that all of you can see my screen right now. The topic of my discussion or our discussion today is about utilizing technology in teaching EYL. So here, I'd like to deliver the practical way by utilizing technology in our classroom in teaching EYL. Okay, the first idea that I'd like to share here is about teaching reading for kids or teaching literacy for kids. So there are a lot of websites that we can use in teaching reading in our class. In short, I just take 3 examples of the websites that I mostly use in my classroom activity. The first one is Monkey Pen, and the second one is Twinkle, and the third one is Bookspring. If you open the link here, for example, for Monkey Pen, you will find for about 50 book collections on that website. Meanwhile, that for the example here, I will open the Bookspring. Okay, let me go directly to the websites of Bookspring here. Okay. Oh, sorry for a while. Okay, I'll just go directly to this one. Okay. So this is the page. Sorry, this is the page. Yeah, this is the page of the Bookspring. Okay. If we scroll it down, we can directly find any book collections here that we can use in our teaching learning activities. So the first one, for the example here, I will open one of the book collections entitled Animals in Motion. Okay, so this is one of the examples provided, of the books provided by the Booksprings entitled Animals in Motion. So we can directly open this book, and I think it is really suitable for the first and also the second graders in our school. Well, related to the previous discussion about learning through movement, this can be one of the resources and media that we can use in our class. We can show it on a big screen and ask or read together with the students and then repeat the sentence while acting like the animal do in the book. So let's see one of the examples here.
Kangaroos hop.
Perfect. So the example here, one of the examples here is kangaroos hop. So Bu Puji previously has already demonstrated in her classroom about TPR or demonstration. So this kind of website or this kind of book can be used also in our classroom. Since the content here is really useful and so simple for young learners. And the second example here.
Porcupines climb.
Porcupines climb. So we can act like the porcupine to climb. The students can move. So the classroom will be really active in this kind of activity. Using this book is really beneficial for us, not only about the interesting content, but also it provides correct pronunciation with the native speaker accent. One more time, let's listen to the example here.
Porcupines climb.
That's it. So I'll go back to my screen again right now. Okay, sorry. Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay, so the audiences, can you see my presentation again?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the first idea about teaching reading for kids is about the advantages of using websites. One more time, there are a lot of websites that we can use. We just can find it easily by browsing on Google. And then the next idea that I'd like to share with you all is about the interactive PowerPoint slides. Using interactive PowerPoint slides will attract the students' attention since the design is really interesting for them. These interactive PowerPoint slides not only can be used to deliver our teaching materials or the lesson for the students, but also it can be used to write the instructions for students if we do a series of activities. If we are not really familiar with the design or to make a very good very interactive PowerPoint slides by using Canva, we can just go directly or visit the website, namely SlidesGo. So there are thousands wonderful PowerPoint designs provided there. And as you know, it is very easy to be used and free to download. Okay, next, let's watch this video.
I'm here because I want to go to the other side of the river.
Okay. Okay, and the next, let's watch another video.
The Little House by Elizabeth Gutlett. In a great big wood, in a great big tree, there's the nicest little house that could possibly be. There's a tiny little knocker on a tiny little door, and a tiny little carpet on the tiny little floor. There's a tiny little table, and a tiny little bed, and a tiny little pillow for the tiny weeny head.
Well, in the process of making these videos, we can collaborate with other teachers like other English teachers in our school, and then the art teachers, the IT teachers, and also other teachers who are really competent in making this kind of video. It provides an alternative teaching concept, because sometimes teachers just ask students to read a narrative text and then answering the questions related to the text that they read, or probably they just read a poem and teacher here just reads the poem and then students just listen what we say. This kind of video will give them a real illustration of the settings and characters in the story or poem. It will be really helpful for students who have the auditory and also visual learning styles. So the application such kind of Movify, Filmora, CapCut, and InShot will help us because they are really easy to be used. And then moving to the next concept of utilizing utilizing the technology in our teaching learning activities, I promote you the TikTok challenge. So let's watch the video.
Can you pass the prompter test? I'm gonna, you guys know what to do. 3, 2, 1.
The Santa Barbara County Public Health Department is opening more COVID-19 vaccine appointments tomorrow. The county is expecting 3,800 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine this week. Emergency service, agriculture, and food service workers are eligible to get the vaccine. Community member can book an appointment starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow on the Health Department website.
Well, this TikTok challenge, as we know, our students now are really familiar with TikTok. That's why we can promote it as our teaching media. And we can select any challenges from TikTok, like news prompter reading that we have already watched just now. Another challenge that we can use is truth or dare. It's really, really familiar with the students. We can ask students like, I dare you to mention 5 words with the initial A. Or tell me the truth. What is the most memorable moment in your life? For example, such kind like that. So it's will be really, really fun for them, since they watch TikTok probably, or they access the TikTok very often in their daily activities. And then as you know, if in this video, she doesn't like a prompt or news anchor, but that's okay if our student is not like a news anchor. But here we can see other things like their fluency and also accuracy in reading aloud. Further, having this TikTok challenge will improve the students' confidence in communication. And then let's watch another video.
Good afternoon, I'm Hazel from my Little Island News, and this is my Weather Report News. Let's see our 6 days forecast start from tomorrow. On Monday, the weather will be sunny and hot, so we need to prepare sunglasses, hats, t-shirts, and a pants. On Tuesday, the weather will be windy and cold, so we need to prepare a cup, closer, and a jacket. On Wednesday,
Okay, well, the idea of weather forecast is using the weather wheel that he holds on his hand right now. Actually, they make it as a project during the English class, and then they continue their activity at home by recording themselves as the weather forecaster. They can report the weather in their area, for example, or probably in Malang, in Bandung, in Jakarta, in Surabaya, in next 3 days or in the next 1 week. That's the main point of the idea in weather forecast. Moving to the next example or the practical way, here I promote the interviewing parents and also impersonating famous figure. Okay, let's watch the video.
Everyone, my name is Caitlin from P5A, and today I'm going to interview my lovely mom about her childhood memories.
Hello everybody.
What is your biggest fear?
I don't like something small, soft and hairy.
Especially toy mouses. If you could give me one piece of advice, what would it be?
Always be positive and always be happy.
Learn that, kids. And that's it for today, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's the highlights of interviewing parents. This activity can be done at home. Students can record themselves with parents during the interview session. The question can be asked such kind of what was your childhood memory, and then what was your childhood name, what is your favorite song, or what is your advice to me when I grow up, for example. The value that we can have or that we can give to our students here is to let them know about their parents deeper. Probably they forget or never know the information before. And the last in this presentation is impersonating famous figure. Unfortunately, I haven't recorded this activity, but I just provide the photo here. This project is actually a group project which emphasis on the forces. It is critical thinking, and then communication, collaboration, and also creativity. The students can choose their favorite figure after having the discussion with their teammates. As the example here, this group choosing Cristiano Ronaldo. So one student here pretending or impersonating Cristiano Ronaldo, another student becomes his bodyguard, another student here becomes his manager, and then the students in the back here becomes the operator of the show. Before presenting their work, the students search the information on the internet about the figure that they want to impersonate, and they also design these PowerPoint slides by themselves. As you know, in the back here, it is shown on the wall. This is the PowerPoint slides that designed by the group of Cristiano Ronaldo here. One more time, this activity can help students to develop their forces skills. Well, to end up my presentation here about utilizing technology in teaching EYL, I take words or the quotation from Jiddu Krishnamurti. There is no end to education. It is not that you read a book, pass an examination, and finish with education. The whole of life, from the moment you are born to the moment you die, is a process of learning. Well, one more time, thank you so much for listening this presentation. And I also deliver my greatest gratitude to my partner in my Little Island Primary School, who helps me to conduct this kind of presentation. Okay, thank you so much. And I'll give it back to Mas Syarif Hidayatullah as the moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gino Sugiarto, for the presentations. The three speakers has delivered their remarkable, their magnificent, their wonderful, to give great insight to all of us. His sons already elaborate their research about temperamental traits in young learner in English learning, and then Ma'am Dwi Puji Astuti explored the phenomena about the young kids learn through movement, and the last Mr. Dino has presented about utilizing technological in teaching EYL. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we're come to the QA or question and answer or discussion sessions. Well, I'd like to invite Miss Sabrina Hisans and Ma'am Puji Astuti to join in the screen with Mr. Dino. Well, let me read the questions in the textbook. The first is from Fitriani. This is the questions for Miss Sabrina, where there are 2 questions for Miss Sabrina and there are 2 questions for Ma'am Puji Astuti. Okay, I will read it first. Questions for Miss Sabrina. How young does young learn means in the context of Chinese? Let me repeat it. How young does young learners mean in the context of Chinese educations? And at what level of educations young learner get English school at a Chinese school? And then the second for Miss Sabrina is Amy. It's from Amy from Aceh, who is now she is trying to raise bilingual kids. Is there any tips for raising the kids since they are a baby? Will one people, one language method work well? Thank you very much for the answer. Perhaps Miss Sabrina, his sons can answer the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and for your questions. Thank you for Dwi and Dino's presentation. Wonderful. I learned a lot along while watching your presentations. Thank you. For your first question, how young does young learners mean in the context of Chinese education? Really depends. Do you mean in my presentation, I use the case of informal education. So means a private tuition. So in China, there were a lot of private language instructions for very young learners, usually age from 3 to 6. So they have very early exposure because they're according to some studies to show that the earlier start, the better a syntax of phonetics you can learn. And but for formal education, it really depends on the city you're at. So some in some provinces, like I think in Beijing, so they may start at primary 1. In some provinces, they may start at primary 3. So it's really very. I also know in some places they may start at primary 5. I think it's a complex issue. Really depends on the curriculum in the specific provinces. So there isn't. I don't think there is one answer to accommodate different interest in different places. So and then in what level of education young learners get English lesson at Chinese? Sorry, May I invite Fitrini to interpret this question a bit? What do you mean by level? Do you want to know the final attainment of children, or do you want to know the level of
The grade.
the grade?
Okay. Yes, the grade.
The grade? Yeah. Maybe I already. Sorry. Yeah, if it's the grade, then I probably answer the question. So grade. So children usually start from primary school to learn some English, and they receive English education until high school to all the population, and then but the English education really extended to bachelor and master degree. So in English education is a lasting process in China, at this stage. So second question, I couldn't see it in the dialogue. So it's about bilingual, right? So can you tell me about, sorry, I may miss the question. So how young, not how young, where is the question about bilingual, raising bilingual in a home setting? Sorry, Sarif, can you repeat the question for me? I couldn't find it. Oh, here, I'm Amy, right? From trying to raise bilingual kids. Are there any tips for raising the kids since they are baby? Yes, one thing is, as Dino mentioned, actually I did a lot of studies, about biliteracy. Reading is number one tips I really give parents. So do read to your kid as young as possible. So according to some research, we can start to read for our kids at the age of 6 months. So I have a young child at home. I read to him since the second month. So I think now, at least, you know, from the superficial level, he enjoys reading. So he loves picture books. We have a kind of really bedtime for reading. So there's a kind of so 3B, how do you say, argument or structure mean bath and bed and book. Means that after taking bath each night, you before the the kid goes to sleep, you start to read to him or her as much as possible. So reading is number one, because gradually, you know, kids are curious. They won't, you know, really argue about language as a young age, as long as the story or interaction is appropriate. Actually, kids will be immersed in the language, so the language exposure is very natural, and it's really good for children to pick up the language, because, you know, our books, language in the books are very complex. It's different from our oral, you know, daily conversation. According to some studies, you know, the vocabulary and syntax in the books is much more complex than our daily communication. So it contains about 5 times more diverse words than our conversations. So I think reading is a great way. Another way is you need to have a language policy at home. So family language policy means that once you decide how you're going to converse with your kid, you need to stick to the rule. Oh, this is a huge line or big line of research. So some parents ask me, so whether I should stick to one child, one parent, one language policy. My answer is, if you feel the language is very weak, probably one parent is not enough. So both parents need to use language. Maybe it doesn't apply to our Indonesian situation that much for English learning, because, you know, many parents probably, I don't know their English proficiency. Many probably are not very fluent in this language. Probably they still rely their mother tongue, the first language. But in Singapore, this is a huge issue. You know, parents can choose between their English and mother tongue. So family language policy will be a big issue. The last tip is about, you know, very rich, very diverse input. You should make the language useful. You should ask the kids to speak this language, to say it in their daily life. Like Dino and Dwee mentioned that, you know, you should encourage kids to use different ways to express themselves, either TPR or, you know, sing out, or, you know, imitating some movies, to recite some lyrics, to recite some movie subtitles. So use a way to encourage them to say it, because according to my study, if we only ask them to have input, but without output, eventually they can be really passive bilinguals. They can't be very active bilinguals. Eventually, they may lose the speaking ability. Yeah. Thank you very much for these exciting questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Sabrina Hisan, for the answer. It is really great. For the next, there are 2 questions for Ms. Puchi. Let me combine it. It is about what kind of song that are appropriate for a young learner, and then how effective would it be to apply TPR in an online instructional process, as we are now encouraged to align our classroom to the digital platform. Thank you so much. That's all from Mandua, Kota Malang.
Yep. Hello, Pak Yoga, Professor Yoga. All right, you are teasing me. Are you teasing me now? No, okay. All right. The first, the question is, what kind of song? Well, again, I cannot answer in exact things, because it also depends on the age of the kid itself. When it is very young, the kid is young, for example, like 4 up to probably 6 or 8, probably you need to use the kids song. Kids like to look at the cartoon, and kids song usually has the picture with the cartoon. Let me, one of the song, I ever watched. There are also abundant of resource from the YouTube that you can also watch and choose and pick for your classes. Let me share you just a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit here. Hopefully I can find the YouTube one. Did you see this? Okay, this is for older kids. For example, from 8 to 10. Yeah, just listen to the song first. This song is from Michael Jackson, actually, and for younger kids, because the story of the Michael Jackson in this song is about heal the world, and it is about war. Sometimes I cut the video. Yeah, I just cut the video. Only I try to show them, the kid, the scenery, especially on the video which do not contain violence. And I ask it, for example, about the vocabulary. For example, what did you see in this video? Do you see, I put there a baby? Do you see a baby? Do you see, what's it? Parents? Do you see dad? Do you see mom? Or do you see a baby? And then something like that. So there are a lot of, this is for example, teenager, for example, junior high school level 7, transition from primary school to, junior high school. This is good for them. But let me show you another one. Can I play until finish? No, yeah. For example, this one. What did you see here in this video? I said, a little kids, yeah, a little kid is bring or proud the flower, for example. A little kid proud the flower or something like that. Or a little kid play a basketball. Which one? Something like that. So from the video, this is song good for them. This is from Michael Jackson. And let me give you another example of song. Wait. All right. Just a moment. So this is for much younger kids, yeah, in kindy, or for example, up to primary school level 2, for example, grade 2. For example, if you are teaching fast and slow, you can give the media. You also can find out on the YouTube slow, and then with the picture, there is also the song here, or probably you can also ask kids to move the hand like circling hand, like slow. Slow means like this. Sorry, slow means like this, fast, and then you try to move your your hand faster, something like this. Fast, slow, fast, slow. Okay, clap your hand. Fast, slow. You can incorporate adjective for younger kids like that. For the older one, you can play Michael Jackson music containing of some good message, of course, for kids to understand. And you can also tell a story about the good message from that song. I think, yeah, there are abundant resources, especially the music for kids that you can find from YouTube. Yeah, it's powerful now. The digital platform, YouTube especially, is very powerful. Yeah, I always use YouTube for my classroom, from the very easiest one to the more serious subject, for example, like thesis writing and anything like that. Everything's you can find on YouTube, for example. All right, and then the second question from Professor Yoga, asking me about how to incorporate what is it? I forget your question, Prof.
Do you have any recommendation about interactive online?
Yeah, okay. The class now becoming hybrid. Yeah, the student, we are using digital platform at the same time. We also, in my presentation, we encourage students to do the demonstration. I think also, Pak Yoga, also you can find in the YouTube, and the student, for example, with the physical activities, for example, doing some, what is it, physical activities, raise your hand, or probably you ask them also to video their activities and submit through the Google link. For example, if you instruct the student to find out some movement related to their daily exercises, for example, stretching, for example, just raise your hand up, put your hands up, put your hand down. Yeah, for example, like that. And then move your body, swing your body like this. And then you can ask them to video. So even though in digital platform, online, online classes, you still can ask them to do a demonstration. They can pick up one of the video related to the exercises and practice by themselves. And of course, they can produce the language with the example from the video, imitate the people on the video, instruct the exercise, like put your hands up and down, anything like that, and ask them to video and submit on the Google Drive. I think it's still possible, Pak Yoga, doing the demonstration, total physical response on the digital platform, even though our meeting is in on the digital platform, Pak Yoga. This is, I hope it satisfy it's answer your question, Pak Yoga. Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you so much, Ibu Puji. That was really good.
Okay, thank you very much for the explanations, Ma'am Puji Astuti. Now we are going to Mr. Dwino Sugiarto. There are two questions that are very, very related in this case. This one from Ananda Ram Dania. In this case, she, our teacher, she already tried some strategy like Miss Puji and Mr. Dino did in the classroom, yet only few of them are interested and enthusiastic while studying, although others show only temporary interest that look like don't have any motivation in learning English. And also it might be because they think that while they are learning English, they do not know, they actually do not speak to other people like a student from another country. That's the thing that they ask for the second question. Is there any some kind of online website where while the student be able to interact with another student from another country? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to answer my lecturer here, Pak Yoga. So it seems that it brings me back 12 years ago, Pak Yoga. So here, and also relating to the topic of utilizing the technology, I'm so sorry, Pak Yoga, that unfortunately I haven't found any kind of online communities for the students. But here in in the local situation, I mean in our institution here, we tried a platform namely Class Dojo. Let me check for a while. Yeah, this platform that initiated by my partner, by my friend in English departments in my school. So we make such kind of local communities here for our students, namely Class Dojo, as you see here. For example, Okay, or the P5P. Okay, this is the example of the content or the platform of Class Dojo itself. So here mostly we can use as the local communication among students using posting a portfolio, and then we can share the class story, and then we can deliver the message to our students. And one of the things that is also interesting here is about giving an effective score to the students. So in my school or in our institution here, we are not using what is that? The form or the document about the effective score again, but we directly go to this one. For example, just being independent, completing tasks, follow the rules. We give it the feedback by having or by giving the points here, such like this. Okay, so this one is one of the platform that we use in our school, Pak Yoga. And the next one is about how to improve the interest, isn't it, Mas Sharif?
Of course, Mas, of course. Because there
Okay.
are
Yeah, based on my experience, I cannot push my era to my students. So if probably my era and also Pak Sony Elvianto here, the era of Dragon Ball, we cannot push this era to our students, since we are living in different era. So promoting what is that? Nowadays situation or era to our students will give a very beneficial or improve their interest in learning English. For example, for me myself, this is my own experience. I'm not a big fan of BTS. I don't know the personnel of BTS at all. But since my students love BTS so much, then I tried to learn who is August D, who is Jungkook, who is other personnel of BTS. So that's my personal experience. And by discussing with my students about that one, they are communicating a lot, since they have a really really high interest in BTS. And the second one, me as a man who are now in 31 years old, I never play Roblox. I never play Roblox or Minecraft, but I tried to come to their idea. What is the character of Roblox? What is the character of Minecraft? And then when we are talking about, oh, okay, this one is Roblox, this one is Minecraft. And do you like, or have you ever played Call of Duty? Do you like playing this one? And then their interest growing again and again. That's my personal experience of how to improve our interest or the students' interest in learning English.
okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chino. Now there is one participant here would like to share his experience. Okay, let me check. Dear Mr. Miss or Mr. Rinjani. Oh, I need, here we are. Okay, yes, Miss Rinjani Bonafide. Okay.
Thank you. Hello,
You can take
everyone.
your
How
time.
are you? Great. Well, first of all, probably I would like to give a really big appreciation for this webinar. Thanks for wonderful presentations that I learned quite a lot from you. Look, I'm UMM person forever, and with Prof. Puji as well. It's really good to see you, to see everyone. Sabrina as well. I just go straight to what is that, teaching English for children. My work is actually what I've been doing so far here. I'm in Adelaide. I'm working with children. It's from 3 to 6 to 5. So that's pre-kindy, or you call it preschool. But next to our room is actually childcare for the long day care. And it's so interesting to work with them. And it's just perfect ideas about talking about, what was that for Sabrina, temperamental traits of children, how very, very, unique every person is. And that's actually makes it challenging for us as a teacher, how to, facilitate them, to support them to learn, especially English as a second language or foreign language. Basically, it's also related to what Professor Puji mentioned about TPR. Movement is very important, yes. So we call them as a, just like in a preschool where I'm working, play-based learning is very important. Now, what is meant by playing, it's everyone knows, I guess, what playing is, but we can see like two things. One is like free play, and the second is guided play, where you free play is that every individual, every child can do whatever they want, running around or pick up things, and they can do with their friends and so on. But now, important thing in instructional pedagogy that we are having is guided one, where we guide them in a play environment. Again, over here, it depends on the age again. When I'm working with children like 3 years to 5 years or 6 years, we tend to follow their lead. So if you remember when you come across a reading like Martin Mayo, that's following the children's lead, that's very important because that's what they are in, what they're interested in. Specific for guided play, take an example, is like what Professor Puji showed earlier. Yes, it's a good one. You actually create the activity and then invite the children to come with you and, to get some access to English. Another simple thing actually for children, probably for those who are working with children, having grocery shop, just have a little corner, having some grocery shop. And the main thing here, what we need to remember, we don't just set up everything and then invite children to do based on our rule. It's a bit tough for the children, in between 3 to 6. So just let them contribute what they like. Well, you children, or Emma, have you been to bakery shop with your mom? What do you see over there? Bread, for example, or pizza. Then it's okay. No, we can have some pizza in our shop, just a small shop, and just ask them to give the price. So that's actually a lot of words that probably new for them, but then they will know with our support. Of course, we can't go away and then just let them play by themselves. At the beginning, first session or two sessions, probably we can do that and supporting them. And yeah, if we cut off just any paper, tear it, and then put $1. Okay, $1, that's your money. Make sure when you want to buy some pizza, bring your money. Okay, just around that small environment, then we can introduce numbers or money, colors. See the money, like $1, what is the color and things. Very simple, but it's actually really good. And after that, we just leave that corner for them, and they can come anytime they like. They can play with their friends, and that's even really good. If there is a questions about how effective it is, well, I can't answer because I haven't done the research for that, but it was wonderful. And about songs, to Professor Dwi Puji earlier, some I agree it depends on the age of the students or of the learners. But if those who like to get some songs, I think I have a little bank of children's song.
Oh,
I would be really happy to share. Definitely.
Thank you.
Maybe outside of the webinar. There was also a question related to bilingual children earlier. I don't know who asked question. I just like browse the message and then asking whether single language is better than being a bilingual. Is that right, Mas Sharif? Is that somebody asking that question?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's Sabrina has answered that question too. But if okay, I just add.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's actually being bilinguals is really good because, you know, maintaining the first language actually help the children to develop their cognitively, to recognize and to understand how other languages work. So it's really good. I think everyone's also agree with that. Having more than one language, being able to, if not only understand more than one language is really good. So in just to share, in a preschool where I'm working, first language is actually maintained. So parents are encouraged to use their first language in their own home. And then when they come to the school, you know, it's children are really, really good in acquiring things. It's just like this, and then suddenly, yeah, they know. Of course, there is a stages like receptive or silent, you know, mode at start period, and then later on, you know, maybe silent. The more, you know, children get used to listening to the word, just like what Sabrina said earlier, keep talking, you know, it's just like, so I guess that's those who are working with children, they just non-stop. And after that, that's actually very important. Just keep talking to them. Doesn't matter if they don't understand, because that's just wording. They listen to it. They know, okay. As long as we use our expression, and then we are also encouraged to use that signing language, like, you know, we have A, B, C, D, or things like that. And, you know, that's actually really good to say the power of language is actually, yeah. So, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Again,
Thank you,
I
Jenny.
appreciate for really, really good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Rinjani. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for all of the insight, the presentations about the sharing that already delivered by Ms. Rinjani. Now we're come to an end. We would like to apologize. Is there some kind of question that cannot be answered? I'm Sharif Hidayatullah as the moderator of this webinar. This international conference would like to apologize for the mistake that we made during the internal conferences. Now I'd like to give back to the MC, Ms. Rodia. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you, Bapak Sarif Hidayatullah, for bringing us to a very productive session today. And I also would like to thank to the three great speakers today. So insightful, so wonderful. And also thank you for the wonderful participants. We have really great participants today. We have some of, we have Professor and also Ibu Rinjani, who have shared experiences, knowledge and insight. Thank you for bringing us to a very wonderful session. Okay, well, I would like to read some announcement for all the participants. Please fill the attendance and also survey form on the chat board. And we are nearly in the closing session. On behalf of the Department of Masters in English Education, Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang, we would like to say thank you for your active participation today and have a great rest of your day. See you for the future program. I am Rodia. I would like to apologize for any inconveniences. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.